Let me introduce you to our next panel and our next moderator, who is Ludwig Siegele, the European business editor for The Economist, who is joining us from Berlin today. And he's going to talk with his panel about the rocky road of European tech and data sovereignty. The insights will be given by the panel, of course, that is consisting of Sebastien Marotte, President EMEA at Box, Yann Lechelle, the CEO of Scaleway, and Gorohhov, the co-founder of Veriff. Please, gentlemen, the stage is yours.
Well, thanks for the introduction, and thanks for joining us for this panel. I think it's the only male-only panel of this conference. That's our purpose, to be male, and I apologize for that. We also have another problem. The other problem is we have a very, very big topic, tech sovereignty, data sovereignty in Europe, and only 20 minutes. So we'll start with a very brief round of introductions. Yann, why don't you start?
Thank you. So my name is Yann Lechelle. I'm CEO at Scaleway. Scaleway is one of your co-sponsors today. And Scaleway is a cloud operator based in Paris, Amsterdam, and Warsaw. So very much European as it is.
Yann?
Hi, I'm the co-founder and CPO at Veriff from Estonia, the latest release from the Unicorn Factory this year. And what do is we partner with businesses to help them onboard customers they can trust. And how do we do this? We ask the person to take a photo of their government-issued ID, and then take a portrait photo and do some magic and make sure it's the right person.
So, yeah, my name is Sebastien Marotte. I'm running our business in EMEA for Box. So Box is a cloud management, content cloud management platform. So we're helping actually organizations to manage the life cycle of their content, which is, of course, key to drive any business.
Thanks, Sebastien. So before we discuss what the rocky road to European tech and data sovereignty is, we should probably first define it and see whether we need it. And Yann has a very strong opinion about it. We talked about it before the panel, of course. You've written a letter to the Commission, to the European Commission, very strongly worded. You've tweeted about it. So you want a very strong European tech sovereignty, I take it.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity to answer the very difficult question of sovereignty. I do not define sovereignty in an easy way, so therefore I use the counter definition, which is to define whether Europe has digital sovereignty or not. My point of view is that we do not have digital sovereignty in the sense that we depend way too much on technology that is not controlled by European entities. Therefore, sovereignty is a question of where we want to go as European technologists, and Scaleway is clearly one of the possible paths and solutions to provide more sovereignty. I do not believe in a single sovereign cloud. I believe in a market that is balanced. Again, I very much love technology developed in California, but California has become so massive, especially with a number of key players, that Europe has created massive dependencies on very few players. And that is not good for a balanced play field. And so I am questioning whether, as Europeans, we have that ambition to rebalance the equation, not by excluding, but by going after more market share and more balance.
I mean, rebalance, kind of have the ambition to create a level playing field. But I'm just wondering, I mean, if you look at the tech industry, I mean, there's, of course, concentration of power. We have the GAFAM, or whatever, cloud computing. It seems to be even more concentrated. We have 3 players, even though Alibaba, I've heard, is now number 4. I wonder, kind of, if there is a field in tech where there is competition, it's actually cloud computing. These guys really compete. So I wonder, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to kind of erect a cloud computing fortress, European fortress? Do you want protectionism, or do you want laws, let's say, that create a level playing field, and how should that work?
Well, there's a number of levers, but to me, the number one thing is actually knowing where we stand today. And if we look at public purchasing and large company purchasing technology, only 1% of their spend is European. So from that point of view, again, saying that there is no sovereignty because 1% is too small, how do we go to increase that to 2% if we're very ambitious, 10%, 30%? So regulation can help, but it's usually slow. The narrative, in other words, if things are equal in terms of features, then can we decide to buy European as decision makers? Not because the regulation imposes us to do so, even though the Small Business Act is something that should develop in Europe, because in the US there is a functioning Small Business Act. In China there is very much a, not a small but a big, by local sort of act, by design. So therefore, as Europeans, we need to decide what sort of equation we want to build using regulation, narrative, a truly competitive field, and of course, remaining open, because the market is open, and that is a good thing. But we need to challenge the equation as it stands today.
Thanks, Yann. Sebastien, so you work for an American company which is not quite a big cloud computing provider. I mean, you're big, but not that big. I mean, what's your position when you, or what are your thoughts when you hear that?
So I work for an American company, but all my customers are European because I run a European business. So what I want is what my customers want at the end of the day. We are not an infrastructure as a service company. We are really an application company that is totally agnostic and neutral when it comes to infrastructure. So we really believe that at the end of the day, actually, we have to fulfill customer requirements. When I talk to my customers at Box, so again, see Box as a super content platform where companies are storing and managing all their content. What my customers are looking for is few things. Number one is really, they have so many challenges right now. We've got a new hybrid way of working, as you've seen the last 2 years. And if there is something that we have learned from the last 2 years is to making sure that employees within these companies are able actually to improve efficient productivity and across all the different locations. So they really care about few things. They care about digitizing their business, and they highly care about security. No later than last week, I was with one of our top customers, who is the City of London Metropolitan Police, actually, in London. London is one of the largest cities, of course, in the world. And if there is only one thing right now that they are concerned about, it's about cyber attack, actually. It's about the crisis in Russia and Ukraine, and how much Russia may actually harm their data. So this is what when I think about data sovereignty, it goes down to the user. They care about making sure that their data are super safe. They care about making sure that they do control their data. It's all about controlling your data, and controlling your data is understanding exactly how is your data being stored, how is it transited, and how is it protected. So in that perspective, this is really what I care the most. The more we can help our customers, and even ourselves, Box, because we are using the infrastructure that is available in the market like our customers, the more actually we can secure this data, the more we can help our customers to control this data, the more we can help the customers to figure out where is their data located, the happier we are as a company, even if we are an American company. So this is super important. We are following very carefully all the initiatives that the European countries are implementing, and especially last but not least, because our solution Box is even more compelling in highly regulated industries like financial services or like life sciences. So we deeply care about all these initiatives. Yeah.
Thanks, Sebastien. Yann, so you're more kind of an application that runs on clouds. I mean, do you care whether Veriff runs on Amazon Web Services or Scaleway or what have you?
I think kind of making those decisions as a business, you're very kind of pragmatic, and you look, okay, how much, like, let's look at it from the cost perspective, like how much premium are you willing to pay for it? And I have a similar example of this that I just moved my home loan from a Swedish-based bank to an Estonian-based bank. Last time that I got the offer, the premium was too high for me to do it. But if there is a small premium, I'm willing to do it. But I think it goes back a little bit into the values as well. And one of the examples where we definitely can relate is being very user-centric. In Veriff's case, we are processing like thousands data points every verification, and we're doing millions of verifications each year. And this is where we are following the European values and culture, how to process this. I think GDPR is a good example of that, but it goes back to a little bit to the point that you made as well. Is it 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%? Values play a little bit the role in that, but in order to get there, we need to actually be very offensive of getting the companies that you can choose from, that you can work with, and I think this is something that we need to focus on.
Well, would you, I mean, do you actually care whether your application there runs on Google or runs on AWS or runs on the European cloud? Would you prefer to have European clouds available? Yeah.
I think there's definitely regulations that we need to follow. There's definitely customers that we speak to and hear what's their requirements. And we've seen this being different. We have customers in the US, like they want US data centers. Definitely EU side is more Ireland or anywhere else. But it's more about what is the problem that we're solving with Google, Amazon, Microsoft. So and what is the value that we're creating from this?
When Yann, I mean, you've lots of entrepreneurs here in the audience, and they probably have to pick a cloud or several probably. What do you tell them, and how do you kind of sell, let's say, your services, you as a European cloud, and say, pick us and don't pick AWS?
So the one thing is about velocity, right? So startups and scale-ups need to go fast, so they like to have one vendor that helps them scale. Now, that is what cloud providers do, and our job as a challenger is to provide that ability to scale fast. Now, there's a myth that we have to debunk, to fight, which is that European infrastructure providers or even startups are 10 years behind the US. That is not the case. It's not the case in the cloud. It's not the case for startups. Now, having access to a large market is a situation in Europe. So we talk about, having access to a homogeneous market. This is something we're trying to fix in Europe. But European companies are very ambitious. They want to tackle the world. So different use cases. In some cases, you're going to need a provider that is globally distributed, in which case maybe only US providers have that. In other cases, it's all about having the most stringent obligations in terms of privacy, in terms of data protection, ownership and control. Therefore, a European provider, a European cloud provider, will guarantee the closest proximity with the legal framework. So if latency and distribution worldwide is not the issue, which is sometimes the case for certain use cases, so in your case, maybe that is the case, then the local solution offers more guarantees, as we've seen with the conflict in Ukraine, as we've seen with Trump's America First being very vocally publicized, and what happened to Huawei having lost its license to Android overnight. Depending on technology that escapes your legal framework, gives you less control, even as a startup and scale-up. So therefore, the question is all about knowing exactly what you can do, given the uncertain times, because scalability also is a question of risk management. And at the other end of the decision spectrum is to think perhaps about a new strategy where we break the myth of the 10 years behind and the only possibility is to work with, say, AWS, which is a great company, or Google, which is a great company. That's not the issue. The point is, distribute your eggs in different baskets, multi-cloud. This is what we're promoting, which is to say, multiple cloud providers exist, distribute your risk, pick and choose depending on your client's needs, and clearly today there are multiple solutions to face all these uncertainties.
Sebastien, so Box is multi-cloud, so or does that the customer decides where to save or store the data?
Yeah, so we are living in an amazing world right now. Just before joining Box, I was 10 years at Google Cloud, actually. So I started the Google Cloud business, actually, 10 years ago. And I remember, actually, we were very much pushing for multi-cloud. And I think you need to be multi-cloud. I think you need to be interoperable, if I can say it pronounced correctly. You need to have multiple options, actually, to select from. So, yeah, of course, we are open, we are multi-cloud, we are interoperable. And also something which is extremely important, not only should you run on multiple clouds, but also you need to be fully integrated to your IT ecosystem. Average number of SaaS applications today in a company is close to 200. I don't know if it's 100 too many, it's a lot actually. And especially with the regulation and with the Trade Council and all these initiatives right now, I think the more we can help companies actually to onboard on this infrastructure, the better. Actually, you open competitivity and you offer more and more options to your customers. So yeah, I'm absolutely very bullish for openness and integrations in the IT ecosystem and multiple options. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe one comment that I think it's not only about the features as well that you compare. In our case, like we started off with Amazon, and it was really about go-to-market. So we went into Y Combinator in the US, and they had a special deal for us that you get, I don't know, 100K, 200K pretty much credits for that. And if you're raising 250 from Y Combinator in dollars, then definitely you're going to take.
You're talking about cloud credits, right?
Yeah.
I call it crack cocaine, but yes.
Well, it is essentially that, because then you kind of start to work with them and you have always an infinite set of things that you can kind of build for customers.
Let's change gear a bit. I mean, there is a big cloud effort in Europe, and it's kind of sort of trying to create a European cloud, which is Gaia X, I think thought up not in Paris, but in Berlin. But Yann, you were member, or Scaleway was member of Gaia X. You recently left Gaia X, and now I'm going to ask you to define Gaia X, what it actually is and why you left it.
Yes, Gaia X is a perfectly fine idea which started in Germany to protect data spaces generated by industrial players, keeping in mind that German cloud generators primarily use US cloud providers. Germany doesn't have as many cloud providers as France does, which is what it is. It's particular in that case. Gaia X has become a vehicle that actually focuses on adopting the cloud and protecting the data spaces. It is not at all addressing what you said in the introduction. It's not creating a European cloud at all. It is not doing that. And it is not tackling the sovereignty topic either. It is addressing the topic of data spaces, protecting the data spaces. So maybe it's talking about data sovereignty, but certainly not cloud and infrastructure sovereignty. So that is particular, and that is the reason why Scaleway left, even though we were a founding member, because it is not addressing the one thing we need, and I believe we need right now. So Scaleway will follow Gaia X from the outside, which is fine. They don't need us. However, what we're doing is building the feature set that our clients need in France, in Europe, and in the world. The roadmap for us is the most important thing.
Sebastien, Box is not yet a member of Gaia X. I mean, and do you agree with Yann that
so
it doesn't address
we are not, but
the
we
issue?
are following very closely actually Gaia X because, well, from what we understand, and I understand, and all right, we have experts working on it actually. It's a kind of a concept actually. It's about building a trustworthy environment actually, where you have rules, where you have interoperability, where you have transparency, where you can bring together multiple platforms. I think it resonates very well with what we are looking for. And you were asking me today actually how much we are planning to becoming a member. We are not yet, but I think it's pretty much aligned with our strategy. Again, our strategy at the end of the day, it's to making sure that we are adopting the highest standard when it comes to security and compliance. And I think it's totally aligned also with Gaia X. Yeah.
Yann, your thoughts about Gaia X? Does that play a role at all in your business?
Not much, because our thoughts are a little bit in a different place. So we are looking forward more towards the IDAS 2, which is a little bit doing kind of this giving data back to the people in a different way, which is essentially it's an identity wallet. So as we are kind of want to actually get to a place that there is reusable identity, there are other means how we can actually protect the sovereignty of data as well, and that's why, in order to follow our values, the European values as well, this is something that we are working together with the regulators, we're working together with the government to push this in order for people to be in charge of their data, not even companies.
Thanks. We're almost out of time. One last question. Fast forward 10 years. Will Europe be technologically or digitally sovereign? Yann, you answer.
We have to. In other words, 10 years from now, if you look at the cloud, for instance, a lot of it will be a commodity, and software will move up the abstraction chain. So I believe that we need to be there. We need to provide a bedrock for the European construct. So the answer is definitely yes. We will be a player. And in fact, one of the things we don't talk about is how Europe is positioned with regards to its dependencies to the US. I believe the US are not letting it go right now, but the US needs a strong technological Europe as a good sparring partner. And I wish for Europe to be that sparring partner for the US.
Thanks, Yann. Sebastien?
Well, I am, of course, a European. I've been working 30 years in US companies, to be honest. Candid here, I really want European companies to be competitive. And to be competitive, it's all about data, it's all about content. This is the golden mine, we all know about that. And to be competitive today, you need actually to be able to scale your business at the pace of your data and your content. So you need to have the right infrastructure and the right application to make it happen. Today, I mean, well, we've got some French initiatives in infrastructure, which is fantastic, but you've got 3 huge players. And really what I care the most about is me being able to, one, making sure that we can secure the data, be compliant with all the local regulations, but also offer to the startup ecosystem and European companies an ability to play, actually, in this game and to be competitive. You've got fantastic startups, actually, which are growing super fast, actually, coming from Europe. We need to making sure that we offer all, again, the tools and regulations and compliance and help and support, actually, to make sure that they are successful and they can also be global companies. Yeah.
Cool. Yann, you have the last word.
Yeah, I sure hope that we don't need to have the same panel in 10 years again and then pretty much go through the same topics. But I think some things definitely need to change. We need to think ahead in 10 years what are the kind of technologies that are going to be important where instead of top 10 applications in my phone, 9 of them are kind of US-based companies. We think 10 years ahead, what are those 10 applications, and then where should we invest VC funding, other funding, in order for those companies to be in the top 3 as well. So it's focusing a little bit on today, but also strategically on the future. And I think there were some great talks here regarding metaverse and other topics as well. So we need to keep in mind the future as well.
Cool. Thank you very much. So it all depends on you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.